Get this thing going. Okay, we are recording. We're live. GM. Awesome. Well, it's a beautiful takeoff Tuesday. Happy you're all here. We had a powerful day yesterday. Lots of conversations around the opportunity, the biz. We are growing. People are enrolling. I see the order page in the back office, and it continues to grow. More and more people are jumping on board as they realize real estate is one of the safest bets they can make, and that Renatus is the best place to get trained up. And one thing I love about this program is people can learn more in a year than they can in 4 years at a university in business and economics. This is the place to be. And if you want to make a difference for others, invite them to an event. The live event system is getting better, uh, especially after seeing what's happened over the last 3-ish weeks or so since the beginning of nationals, and the momentum and the excitement that we've created. So well done, everybody. Keep inviting, keep asking for the orders. One thing we touch on, and then just as a reminder for all the new people, is you got to ask people to buy 5, 7, 9, 10 times. Some people just they don't hear it the first 5 times. You got to ask, would you like to buy? Would you like to join? Do you want to join? Are you ready to join? Is now a good time to join? And you'll start to see a lot more yeses. And there was a lesson in it was in Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. He was talking about training different sales organizations on, I believe he was training life insurance sales, which according to him is one of the hardest things to sell. And one of his pieces of advice that had the most success for the sales field was playing deaf. Meaning when the customers would say no, he would just, said, imagine putting up a little, I don't even remember what they're called. Not an earphone, that's something else. But anyway, the old stereotypical old man, deaf man. It's got a little horn to his ear, and he just, what? Never mind, and then just keeps on with his pitch. Just ignores the naysayers and continues to ask and promote his product and continue to make the sale, ignoring the no's, and they said that made all the difference. Yeah.
Are you thinking of hearing aid, Michael?
That's the word. Thank you, everybody.
You're welcome.
A hearing aid. Yeah. Play deaf to the nose. If someone tells you no, pretend like you didn't hear that and just keep going, because we got something great here. We got the best value, we got the best training, we got the best community, we got the best comp plan. So what else are people looking for? We got it right here. So a great example of that, and someone who loves to do promotion wherever he goes, whether it's at restaurants or the gym or the tennis court or on an airplane or on the lake, is Mr. Bill Predeban. The guy lives life to the fullest. He never takes a day off. I know he's getting his RV ready this summer for another trip across the country. And like I said, it's life by design. When you watch this guy play full out, you can see it's not just the money, it's not just the lifestyle, it's the relationships, it's the health. And he doesn't cut corners when it comes to designing his life. And you can ask him, and he'll tell you that there's 2 different lives that he lives, one before Renatus and the one after Renatus. And that's what we want for everybody. I was watching the music videos this morning as we were getting the call started, and just seeing all the faces from around the country and the different communities, and the difference we get to make for people. Yes, we're making a difference for ourselves by taking action, by making the calls, by watching the classes, putting in the offers, showing up to the trainings, making a difference for ourselves. But even more importantly is making a difference for others, inviting them to the events, running the events as best as we possibly can, and showing up early, staying late, answering the questions, because you know when someone buys, they're making one of the best decisions financially they could make. So Bill's a great example of that. He's helped run the Phoenix team for many years. He's helped on the online expansion. You know, one of the first challenges that we did was a 10-day real estate challenge, and he was there to help us with that. And as we continue to grow, he's been here along the way. He's been promoted as one of our most recent illustrious Renatus instructors and designing the class called From the Ground Up. So stay tuned as the dates are announced for that recording. Whenever that happens, you'll want to be in Utah. You'll want to come to the studio live to participate. So without further ado, let's give a big warm welcome to the man of the hour, Mr. Bill Predeban, GM. Good morning.
Good morning, brother. You guys, you're too kind.
Yeah, man. Thanks for being here. And it's Takeoff Tuesday. We don't skip. So today we're wanting to talk a little bit about what it looks like in your world when you work on your business versus in your business, and what you do on a day-to-day, and then what advice you'd have for people just getting started on the difference. So I'll turn it over to you. Thanks for being here.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks. It's awesome. It's one of my favorite hours of the week for sure. It's great to see all these faces. We are growing, man. It's coming back, and that's a testament to Bob and the leadership and the pack and the and the home team just really stay in the course. They've got a vision and a mission, and regardless of the obstacles and what happens, that is a toughness that's a skill set that needs to be considered and resembled and learned. And it's great that we have that in our in this company from the top down. It's nice because it could have been, it's easy to give up. We could have easily stopped this call or anything else and just gone on with what we do for ourselves. And there's something better. So it's good. It's good to see everybody here. And again, if anybody has a thought, comment, question, just raise your hand, interrupt me. I don't care. This is all about us. It's all about you. It's all about whatever's on your mind. So, type it in the chat, whatever, we'll look at it. But yeah, we'll dive in. I love what you did yesterday, Michael, on the training. I think, it's fun to get back to basics and to explore just the simplicity of introducing this to somebody, asking several times for the sale, making comments. I have a question. Easier to come off mute. Sure thing, Tamara.
Hey, Bill. Good morning, everyone, or GM, as Michael likes to say.
I know.
You're like obsessed with it. GM.
I know, it's so funny. I don't even know what he means sometimes.
Yeah, GM. I know I've brought this up before, but I'm super focused on getting over it right now. I gotta find more properties, and I gotta get better at finding more properties. That's been my biggest hurdle right now. So I can scale. So I'd love to get some feedback I'd love to hear more of your stories about how you've gotten properties. I know you've done a lot with agents and on MLS.
So this is a good question because I got to tell you, and I would bet that Maylee would agree with me. First of all, when I came to Renatus, I came to Renatus for real estate. I don't even know that I knew it was a direct sales company, even though I went to the presentation. I probably wasn't open to it. So I didn't really pay attention to that aspect. All I wanted to do was figure out how to do real estate. And so one of the things that I remember was that there was a lot of people in the room also interested in real estate. So I made a decision to come to the room quite a bit, as often as I could, and participate. And I really wasn't participating necessarily in marketing. or being an ICM, although I became one. I was really interested in meeting people interested in real estate. What I did find, and I know this is not the answer you're looking for, so I'm going to expand on it, Tamara, but for everybody else, the consideration is, and Dane Clark is very good at explaining this and realizing this and capitalizing on it, is that when I did start to invite people to the meeting, the majority of them, in fact, a very, very high percentage of them had some sort of relationship to real estate. They were interested in getting into real estate. They already were trying to get their first deal, or maybe had a deal. They had some sort of resource. And I know you've all heard me say this. So the resource, that connection enabled me as an educated individual, and I kind of said this on the panel at nationals and stuff too, like as I became more educated and more sophisticated in not even like, if I look back at the first 8 months, I didn't close a deal really. I mean, I closed a wholesale deal in like 6 weeks when I first started wholesaling, but the market was a different market. It was literally a crash, and wholesaling was pretty obsolete at the time. But so I immediately transitioned to short sales, and thank God we had that opportunity in Renault. I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? If I'd have joined a company that didn't have variations of real estate opportunities and education, I might have quit, because you literally couldn't wholesale. You couldn't you could fix and flip, but you had to buy it at a discount in order to get it to fix and flip it. The market was moving so far south so quickly. So, the primary acquisition was short sale. So anyway, when I moved to short sale, where was I going with this? I get lost in my translation. So the interesting thing is that, and I was telling you about, like, Dane capitalizes, is that the people were bringing were some sort of interest in real estate. And when I would connect with them, they would find out quickly that I kind of knew what I was talking about. They didn't really ask me how many deals I'd done. Now, I would get up in the front of the room sometimes, and then even when I wasn't closing deals yet, but I started to do short sales, and I had a lot of short sales on my plate. But I'm telling you, there would be people in the room that were like, hey, my house is underwater. I've got a friend who needs to get a short sale. And I know it was a different market, so we're not going to compare the market. It's not the same. But I am telling you, like, if you look at Steve Namora at all, and I know you know him very well, Tamara, we're all close. He does his own Japanese YouTube channel and does a presentation. He doesn't do the presentation to necessarily sell Renatus, but that is the whole point of it. But a lot of his Japanese folks just don't want to do it because they don't even speak the language, right? And he does still make sales. You'll see Stephen Moore still making sales, but his community is a real estate oriented community. And he does these invitations online so he can find money and connections and people. So, and I see iPhone has a question. I'm going to get to you in just a minute. I'm going to expand on this a little bit, and we're going to talk. This is going to be fun, you guys. Everybody, if you want to talk about something, we're going to talk about, we're going to relate this to working on the business versus working in our business. And I'm going to share that with you, because it is interesting where I got the majority of my deals. And it definitely stems from two places. And this is the first place, is inside the Renatus community. When I was inviting people, and I talked about this, when you study the education, when you connect with the community and understand the full Renatus vision and the Renatus wealth cycle, and you can communicate that to people, you sound intelligent, you sound smart, you sound like you know what you're doing and what you're talking about, even though you may not have closed a deal yet or many deals yet or whatever. And you become, for lack of a better term, an expert in something you're not even an expert in, based on experience. But so the people that we talk to on the phone that might not even show up, that might not even come to a meeting, but have some sort of connection. We're doing marketing for Renatus. There's a possibility we'll make a $12,000 paycheck and change someone's life. But at the same time, there's a possibility we're going to end up with a resource that's going to get us into another deal, whether it's a bird dog. You don't even know how many people, you guys. I once got this girl, she came over and she joined like at the very lowest level and wasn't really that interested, but for some reason she wanted to go find deals in like bird dog. She became a bird dog for me. She literally went door knocking. And two of the best deals I ever got. One was an $80,000 profit from a guy who called back on one of her leftover notes on his car because he didn't answer the door. And he ended up having 2 properties. But so and she wasn't really even into Renatus at the time. So I mean, she was into kind of the community, but not really into the education. She just wanted to, she actually was so into being a bird dog, she went and got on Craigslist and got someone to go knock doors with her so it was safer. And she split my fee that I was paying her to do it. So, all right. The other thing is, I love educated individuals. And we talk about this and it's sometimes it you know, the pendulum always swings, right? But I don't need somebody to be in Renatus to do a deal with them. All right. That's not the point. I'm going to control the deal. No way am I going to give somebody my money or my time if they don't, if they're not educated in, you know, especially if they're not, you know, in some way, shape or form connected. But if they don't join Renatus or they're not educated or they're not willing to pay for education, I'm going to use them to what they're worth, which they're going to get paid very little for their time because they're not educated, if that makes sense. But I'm not going to kick them out of bed, right? So the interesting thing is the people that I found to find me deals, for example, one of the very first people I met was a realtor who joined Renatus. And that individual was a realtor. And I find a ton of deals on the MLS. The MLS is the largest place for real estate for sale. And to be honest, it's the least amount of competition, in my opinion, of investors, because they are looking for off-market deals, because the perception is if it's off-market, you can get to seller and create your own discount, which is not inaccurate. It's true. However, if you really think about it, there's 10% of 10% of realtors make money, whatever the number is, right? We all know that there's not that many realtors making a very good living. Most of them do it part-time and they do it for family and friends. So to be honest, they suck at it. When they suck at being a realtor, they're going to suck at you selling your house, but they're going to stick it on the MLS. And most likely it's not going to sell. It could be just a description. It could be most likely related to some sort of price exaggeration or under exaggeration. And so it's going to stay on the market longer. And there are problem houses on the market that are not addressed. And those problem houses are the ones that sit there for a little bit of time. And then there's an opportunity. There's also expired listings, right? Because the realtor failed to sell the house. And typically it's the realtor's fault that the house didn't sell because someone's going to buy it for the right price. Therefore, my realtor, who was also being educated in Renatus and understood real estate and did understand that I'm not making a lowball offer, I'm making a very educated offer. So therefore, they were willing to go to places and call people up that had expired listings because they knew 2 things. 1, they were going to get paid a commission on the front side. And 2, if I was flipping the house, I was going to give them the deal on the back side. So they were going to make more money with me than they could ever make as their own regular realtor, right? They were going to get a listing and a buyer. So the realtor was vested. So I would consider having one of your best team members as a realtor. Now, iPhone had a question. Do you still have a question, iPhone? I don't see iPhone on the thing.
I believe that was Michelle. I've been teasing her about changing her name in the Zoom.
Right? It is, you know, it's 2025. Technology is complicated. Okay, so Tamara, I know you dropped off, Tamara, and came back, but My suggestion would be find a realtor, number one, that I'm telling you, when I was coaching students of my own, when I had a Renatus hiatus there for a while, and I was doing my own coaching, the number one thing I did was have people interview a realtor, and then I'm telling you, one girl found a very green realtor, young guy who was very interested in making money, and he found her a deal. She made over 80,000 on it, in her first freaking deal. And she was my contractor, and it was and they didn't pay me a lot of money. Like it was, I mean, for most people it's a lot of money. For me, it was not a lot of money. I should have charged more. But yes, get realtors that are, you have two choices with realtors, and we're going to move on into this, but you can get a really green realtor who's very outgoing and is willing to go, is ignorant to what a low ball offer is ignorant to a lot of real estate, being molded by the realtor, and you got to dress nice and have a picture of your face on your card. They're just there to be a realtor and make money because they know that 3% of a $1 million sale is a ton of money. So they have a lot of energy, and they're new and they're excited and that sort of thing. And they're like a child, right? They don't have all this negativity hitting them about being a realtor, how hard it is, and you got to be a listing agent, how buyers suck, and all this stuff. They're just ready. Or you get yourself a realtor who's top notch. They work with the best brokerage. That brokerage, has the most sales, does the most marketing, right? And they're a top performer and stuff like that. And then you utilize their expertise and you say, "This is who I am. This is my proof of funds. I'm not joking around. I want to buy. I need you to get me off market deals or pocket listings that, which aren't really legal anymore, but they're still available. Or I want you to get me, I want you to work the MLS for me, or this is where I'm at." And you start working with a really highly qualified realtor, and that person's going to get paid. You're going to pay them more because they're worth more. They're not necessarily worth more, but they're going to expect more. They're going to demand more because of their experience, but they might be able to help you more. All right. So one of the things that this brings us to, and anybody, you guys, girls, love it. If you got a thought, comment, question, come off mute, show it in the tap. I can't even talk.
I did.
Yeah, go ahead, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah, so I was just gonna Mary, you're here in Salt Lake, right?
In my heart, I'm in Salt Lake. No, I'm in Arizona. It's
No,
too
no, no,
cold in
not
Salt
you.
Lake.
Tamara.
Oh, Tamara is in New York. She's crazy. She's in New
You
York,
moved out there?
Florida, Virginia. Tamara is not in New York, or not in Salt Lake either.
Okay. Well, I would say, because it just depends on because she said she wanted to find how's the best way to find properties. And I would say go maybe
Go what? We lost you. We lost you, Michelle. She'll come back.
Cliffhanger.
What's that? Hey, Dougie, what's up?
Yeah, I said it's a cliffhanger. She wanted to get our attention.
Yeah, right. That's a good point. Yeah, the iOS is something, so everybody, you guys, it depends on your strategy, right? The iOS is obviously software as a way to find property, and you
sorry
can
guys, I got
go ahead.
off into
Say it
my
again.
my Bluetooth picked up my phone. No, I was just saying is that I think I'm getting kicked off my Bluetooth. I don't know if anybody can hear me.
Yep, we hear you.
Just gonna say some of the Sarias and just different agents, and interview some of the agents that know the kind of, because you're in a, and kind of stuff that you're doing, because just a regular agent don't know. And I've been an agent for a long time until I found Renatus. When I found Renatus, I feel like I learned more. And there's two different hats that you have to know as being an investor and being an agent. So I would say interview some of them, go to some of the Sarias, and yeah, just talking to different people from the title companies. I think what's his name? He was on stage at Nationals. Oh, Scott Rowe. So what he was showing, he was like doing some flyers, putting flyers out. This is what I'm looking for. Even if you have a deal, oh, this is one of my deals. Putting a QR code on there, kind of advertising yourself that way, so that people will start coming to you to bring deals to you too as well. Just an idea.
Yeah, so you're right. Like Manley said it perfectly, is that anything does work. But you know, putting out like there's a reason you're putting out flyers, and there's a you know, RIAs are good, but RIAs have a purpose. And the purpose is and you have to be in my opinion, and I should say my experience, it's not opinion. I don't go to RIA. It's a waste of time. And it was a waste, I should say, of my time, because they're there to sell. They're there for one speaker to, you know, boast their experience. And then there is a network. And if you're not a very good network, there's a lot of booths, of course, and you're going to get you know, you're going to get offered to join this title company and all this stuff, right? And it's a good experience for fun, but you know, it's interesting to see some of the deals that come in there. There's a lot of wholesalers that are not very good wholesalers, and the deals are terrible. But that is not to say that it doesn't work, and that it's great that you could really find a good connection there as a networker. And if you're good at networking, then I think, you know, if you're there for a purpose and you ignore all the noise, then anything works, like Manley said. I think what I like, here's what I like when I'm looking for deals and when I'm looking for business is I like to avoid the competition, right? I like to have an upper hand, and I like to have a large pool, right? I want to have a good shot. I want to make the least amount of offers and get deals. So when I target market, I have that ability, right? So the other thing is when I am the expert and people trust me, and they know that if they bring me a freaking deal, if you listen to Chris Wilson, he will offer you a deal once if you're a buyer, and he will offer you a deal twice if you're a buyer, but he will not offer you a deal a third time if you don't buy, because he's not going to waste his time with non-buyers, with picky, sit on the fence people. His deals are pretty solid. So Chris Wilson brings me his deals first. Before, you know, I can't count, well, I probably could, if I thought about it, count the number of deals that I've literally bought from my idol and mentor, Chris Wilson, right? Was one of the very first instructors I've ever listened to. He used to do the fix and flip class when I started, and as well as the wholesaling and stuff. So, and then I coached with him for, I think, 2 years, just to gain his. We didn't even talk about real estate like we did, but I just hate to listen to him and have conversation. So the point is that I don't know what the point was, because I lose my points of thought all the time. Okay, so but good point, Michelle. That those, you are right with the realtor. That's what I think when you dropped off or lost your Bluetooth, I was talking about getting realtors. So what I like about this conversation is these are things that allows you to work on your business, right? So you're not actually finding the deals. I pay the realtor after the job is done to bring me deals that I make 3 to 5 times more than the realtor, or I won't buy the deal, right? It doesn't always work out that way. Sometimes I'll make twice as much as the realtor. But in the initiative, when I looked at the deal and vetted the deal, there's at least a 3-time margin, right? He's going to make 3%, 2% on the front side, 3%, maybe 2% on the back side. And I know what it's going to sell for, and I know what I'm going to buy it for. And I can calculate it, and I still know that I'm going to flip it and make more money, or I'm going to hold it, whatever I'm going to do, right? And the funny thing is, and the cool thing is I don't have to pay them until the transaction's over, right? I don't have to pay them with my money. So, they are working for me to find the deal. I'm not calling the seller. I'm not right? When a realtor is bringing me a deal, and realtor is just one example. Bird dogs are obviously going to just bring me names and numbers, addresses, right? They're not going to just say I saw a house that has some weeds growing, because I could do that, right? But they are going to bring me a name and phone number, right? And they're going to bring me a little bit of detail. But a realtor or a, you know, an actual wholesaler that isn't even going to be able to tie up the property, right? There are many wholesalers who are afraid. They don't understand the process, especially new people to Renatus or any education system. But what they are good at is networking. They're finding people who need to sell a house, but they don't know how to tie the contract up. Even if they did know how to do it, they don't want to put up the earnest money. They don't have the earnest money. They don't understand an inspection period entirely, things like that. So there's some nervousness. There's some fear around not knowing. So I can take advantage, for lack of a better term, and help them. I can pay them less for doing less work, but I could take it over from there, right? And I can write the contract and then pay them for the work that they've done, right? Obviously, if someone writes a contract that has more value than if they didn't, typically, right? It may not be a very good contract and I won't buy the contract, but you following me on this. So this, I know this sounds like a real estate call, but this is marketing 101. Like in any business, this is, and I love that Maley's here. This is what Maley does. Maley networks. Maley and Mitch are good at bringing people together and brokering things, and they are the expert. So they can even pick and choose the best deals if they want to, right? Or they can work with the people that they know have the biggest experience and the most to gain, and they can cherry pick deals for them because they're their top people, if it makes sense. They're working on their business instead of in it. There are people all around them working to bring them the things that they can't finish, right? So when we work in our business, we do all of the work. We get the iOS, we go on, we pick the letters, we mail the letters, we receive the calls, we make the calls, right? Then we go to the house and we judge the house. And there's nothing wrong with that, right? It's not entirely scalable necessarily in the beginning. It takes more time, and you have to have time as one of your resources. If you do not have time, then that is not a system that is going to work for you, right? You're going to need to implement people that you could be the sophisticated one and work at work. You could have your computer, you could flip up your laptop. I used to do this at work when I actually had a job as a loan officer. I was a preferred lender on a apartment complex that was being converted to condos, right? So I had an office at the condo complex, in the office where people walk in and want to buy a condo. And this was crazy because no one was buying because the market was crashing, but it was pretty funny. But it's a whole nother story for these investors that bought these apartments and they started the conversion. You have to convert once you start the HOA. You can't sell one unit without having the HOA started. There are laws in place. It's a very risky adventure, but they were crushing it during the boom. So I was so bored, and there were so few loans that I was doing. In fact, there was almost zero, that I would bring my laptop and put it up in front of my computer monitor. So they didn't even know that I wasn't really working on leads. I was working on real estate and studying my classes. It was pretty funny. And I don't remember where I was going with that either. But anyway, if you have time to go online and you can do the work and run the iOS software and then do the mailers, which are automatic, but then you'd have people that are going to go vet the property, that are going to go call the seller, right? These could be your new students that are, maybe they can't go all in right away or something like that. And you have the expertise because you took the classes and you could train them on which classes to take so that they can start making money with you, but you make the lion's share. It's just it's a thought, but it all starts with where you want to be. It's very important that I will tell you that I spent the majority of my time working in my business all of the time. Why? Because I had blinders on. I didn't make a plan. I didn't think about these things. I wasn't told about these things. I was told that I needed to go flip a house and make money doing real estate, no matter whether it was a short sale, double escrow, whatever it was, that I was going to have to do the work. I didn't know how. I didn't read It Starts With Why, and I didn't read, what was that other damn, I can never remember the name of that book. Originally, I did read it eventually, but once it was told to me, but it was about building your business, right? And working on your business instead of in your business. So I worked in my business all the time for the first many years because I was chasing the almighty dollar. I was trying to pay off debt. I was trying to get out of the hole I created, right? I was stuck. So I had blinders on and I did it all. So I would make money, but every time I'd make money, I'd have to start all over again. There was no leverage. And the Renatus opportunity, the Renatus wealth cycle, the marketing aspect creates leverage automatically in real estate. There's no question about it. But it doesn't do it if you're not educated. It doesn't do it without doing the marketing, without being honest and sincere. It doesn't, like, I know I use the word take advantage, but the whole goal of Renatus is for people to become their own independent marketer, their own independent business owner, and their own independent real estate investor. And eventually they will either be using their own money. They will always have partners. They will always have a network. They will always be together as part of the team. But the idea is they'll level up, right? They will become their own boss. But in the interim, like in anything, right, we start out as an apprentice. We start out, because this is a trade. And these are my opinions, but they're backed by experience. That is not such a book. That you're right. That could be the Bright book, but that's not the one I was thinking of. But I that's exactly what I'm talking about. And this is a trade, and trades they start out as an apprentice. They have a mentor, and they work their way up to becoming their own boss and having their own business once they're established and they put in the years of work. And then they have their own apprentices that essentially work for free so they can learn their skill set, right? They work for room and board, like the old days, and they become the best of the best because they work with the best of the best, right? And so it's the same thing here. While we're studying, while we're learning, we can earn, right? And that's why Bob puts in this process that we can invite people to join the system and get paid for that, because we can earn, because real estate is a trade that takes time to learn and master. And if we don't master it and we just jump in, we could end up losing everything, right? We could lose money that we don't have the ability to lose, or we could lose other people's money, or we could just get in trouble, or we could get discouraged and we could just quit. And these aren't the things you want to do, right? So, but we all need to make money all of the time. And so that's why this is built in. So the true wealth cycle is so critical, and is so important. And it caters to the ability to grow fast and become the expert fast. So anyway, I didn't mean take advantage of people, but there is a hierarchy, for lack of a better term. And there is this system that is built in where you climb, you work your way, I don't know, not up, but you grow into this system. And then new people come in and they have to grow into the system as well. And some people don't even want to be that far. They just want to join the team. They just want to be around successful people. And so they're willing to help and donate time and contribute and be service leaders. But they're and they're satisfied with that. It fills the need that they have. And so you take what people are giving, right? Depending on what your goals are. So anyway, food for thought. I like the idea of, the majority of the work that I do, even from the beginning, after I really, when I started marketing and having a team and running the meeting and things like that, is that, and having realtors look for properties. And I invited every realtor that I had to the meeting. They didn't all join, but they understood the value that I was bringing, and that they could count on me. If they were going to do work, they were going to get paid, right? And so they knew what I was looking for. So I didn't have to do it. And what's interesting is people that have money want people to put their money to work. Why? Because they don't have the time or the energy or even the ability to go get educated to put their own money to work. Right? And so people that are uneducated feel like their time is their most resource. So they're willing to give up their time for you or for someone that is going to pay that. If they give up their time, they want to get paid. If they give up their money, they want to get paid. If they give up their knowledge, they want to get paid, right? If they give up their leads, they want to get paid. So they want to give it up to someone who's actually going to close the deal. So when you are the expert and you have the knowledge and you have the resources, whether they're your own or not, then people know that if they do the work for you, you will pay them, right? Once the deal closes. It doesn't do anybody any good if the deals never close. That's why, you know, when you work with a title company like Michelle was talking about, and you work with insurance agents or in real estate agents and broker, they get to know your reputation and they understand that you have the possibility, even if you've never closed before, but that you have. What do normal people do in the real world when it doesn't come to invest in educated investors? How do they vet somebody in a real world of making a transaction? Right? Because all transactions are commission based for the most part, right? And even if they're not, and there are people in the chain that are being paid by the hour, they still need to close the deal, or they're going to get fired, right? They can't. A title company is not going to pay a bunch of title agents to an hourly wage if they never close any deals, right? So what does everybody do? They vet people through proof of funds, right? They vet people through proof of funds. That's how they know whether or not they can actually close the deal, right? So this same thing here. These people will understand that we don't need a proof of funds because we have the ability, we have the expertise, and we have the network to close the deals, right? If that makes sense. That's a whole other topic, but anyway, trying to see if there's nothing else in the chat. Anybody want to add anything? Anybody want to go explore any of that deeper? Tamara, I know you dropped off. I don't know if you got my answer or not. I know you had to come back on, but. All right. Everybody okay? All right. Thoughts, comments, questions, just come off mute. Yeah.
She is on bill, but I'm not sure why. Maybe she is just doing something because she is connected.
Yeah, she's there. I see her. I just know that I had to let her back in. She dropped off for a second, so I didn't know if she caught it all, but she said yes. I really liked the, I'm telling you, there was, what's interesting is my realtor that I was talking about for years. I mean, he literally brought me, I would say, more than 60% of my deals. He would bring me deals off market, not even, or a lot of expired listings that he would call on. And he had the ability to not only call and lead, but if the deal wasn't going to be good enough for me, he would pick up the listing again. Right? It's so funny. Now he owns multiple units. He is a millionaire himself, 4 kids, is an incredible instructor to other agents to become investors themselves, and has done tons of flips. And we don't even work together anymore. We're very good friends, but he went on to be an amazing investor himself. And he also did buy the Renatus education on top of that. But he did that in the very beginning, actually. But he was more interested as a young entrepreneur and agent to make money. And then he would study the education on the side. And eventually he put the education to work. But, you know, we probably did over 100 of, you know, over 50-60% of the deals that I've done, over 200 at the time. When I was working with him, he'd done over 100 of them with me, on the buy and sell side, wholesaling, flipping. We did so many different deals. And that was only one agent. I remember there's an agent, a friend of mine to this day, that brings me deals, and she was in my neighborhood. She never joined Renatus. I probably showed it to her 100 times. And then, yeah, So the MLS is a beautiful place for property, and there is less competition, in my opinion. And you, you know, in my opinion, and when I state opinion in real estate, a little bit in marketing, I'm not the best marketer, you know, but I've had my share, you know, I've built some pretty good teams here, but it's my opinion is backed by my experience. And what was I gonna say? I was gonna say in my
Hey,
opinion.
Bill, 70,000 in 1 month, that is awesome, so.
Yeah, that was a
You
good
are
one.
awesome.
Thank you. That was awesome. That was a good year. I made 100 and I think I made 164,000 that year. That was my best year. Yep. Join the First Flip Challenge season 4. Yeah, there's some good chats in there. It's good to have Melee on the phone. There's some good resources in Renatus. I mean, it's just no joke. It's a one-stop shop. You know, I've never ever had to buy another ounce of education. I pay for coaches, but I don't ever pay for education. And it's just unlimited. Yeah. All right. So what was I saying? So, damn, I was going to say something about my opinion, my experience. MLS. Oh, I know what it is. In real estate, and what's interesting, this kind of applies to prospects in a way. Every real estate deal, every house, like, is a deal. And the reason I mean that is, depending on what you want to do with it, for the right price, it can be the deal, right? The deal will be made. So when it's on the MLS, because someone's priced something at a certain price, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't mean that that's what they're going to sell it for. That's what they're asking for it, right? So in theory, they've already lost the negotiation because they've spoke first, right? They've already given you what they feel they want to take, right? And everybody knows that everybody that prices something will take less, right? It's just a fact. If they don't take less now, they will take less later, right? And if it sells, it doesn't matter. If it sells before you come back and make another offer, who cares? It wasn't your deal. It was someone else's deal, right? So what's interesting about the MLS is there is no wrong price to offer. There is no wrong. You're going to look at the deal and it doesn't matter what the price is asking. It's about what I can pay for the deal. It depends on what's going to need to be done and how the deal is going to make me money, whether it's a long-term or short-term play. Oh, you're so welcome. You're too kind to me, Mealy. It's awesome. So yeah. And it's kind of like prospecting and that there is no wrong prospect, right? And Dane Clark, to be honest, has just made an exceptional living talking to people about opportunity with Renatus, because he can then put them in one of his 4 buckets and use them as a resource in many different ways, right? Either they're going to be a retail customer and they're going to live in one of his places, they're going to buy one of his houses, they're going to need owner financing, and they're going to consume. They're going to be a consumer, or they're going to be an investor, or they're going to be a Renatus student, right? Or they're going to be someone that's going to bring him a deal or a resource or something like that. So it's pretty interesting. So it doesn't always mean now, right? It just means that it's just not now. It could be later, right? So one of the things that an old instructor we used to have, he's out of Michigan. He's still out there. He's a guru. His name's Norton. And he works with primarily, and he's changed his MO as of late. He does a lot of land now, but he was a major fix and flipper in Southern Michigan, in the suburbs of Detroit and Ann Arbor, and in good areas. and would make 25 to 50 grand a deal, and he'd work 4 deals a month he'd close on. And he'd work 12 deals at a time, and he'd close, essentially 12, 4 deals a month, and he'd make $1 million a year or more in real estate flips. And he worked primarily with REO agents. And the REO agents would get it, they'd vet the deal, they'd, get ready to put it on the market, and they would come to him and say, you can make an offer, I'm going to put it on the MLS in 1 minute, in 5 minutes, at 6 a.m. or whatever time they're going to do it. And he'd do a quick, they knew he'd close, and they knew that they could double escrow it, right? They'd be able to get both commissions on the whatever the bank was offering, because he was the buyer and he didn't have an agent. So they could make more money selling the REO to him than they would if they just put it on the MLS and someone came in with a buyer. So it didn't mean the bank was going to take it, but he would make his offer. And what's interesting is a lot of times he had a formula. And so a lot of times the bank didn't take his offer, and the bank would put it on the MLS. And if 30 days went by, the bank would call up the brokery, and they would say, broker, why didn't it sell? You told me this was the price it would sell for in 30 days. And they'd reevaluate it, and they'd put it back on the market. And at that time, he'd go back to him and say, hey, the bank didn't sell it in 30 days. What's your new offer? And sometimes he'd lower his price, and sometimes he'd make the same offer. But these agents knew they could count on him. Again, my point is that he was working with an agent, and it wasn't always that he got every deal. It's that deal, the bank wasn't willing to sell it then for that price, but later they are. Same thing with the MLS. When someone gets presented an offer and they're like, that's a stupid offer, and then they sit on the property for 30 or 60 days, they might start looking at that offer and go, wow, maybe we should go back to them and see what they do. And your offer doesn't necessarily mean it was your highest and best. It just meant that it was an offer. So it's quite possible you could raise your price, right? Typically, you're not going out with all guns a-blazing and making your highest and best offer. You're only doing that in a bidding war at the end, right? So generally speaking, when we negotiate in the negotiations class, when we make an offer, we're usually willing to go up. When someone makes a price offering, they're usually willing to go down, right? And he or she who speaks first loses, because it's just a case. I just listed a house. I know that I'm willing to go down from what my price is, right? But I'm not going to tell that to someone who makes me a full price offer. By the way, I would have taken 100,000 less. You know what I mean? But I would have. But they don't know that, because they didn't study the negotiations class. And they probably have a crappy agent. But I will tell you, okay, we got some more time. We can, I hope we talked a little bit about working on your business. I don't know if Michael has any comments, but I'll share a story with you. And I think I shared this story, but last year, my mom decided that she was going to move out of the house she was been in for 46 years, because my dad was the one who always carried the laundry up from the basement. And their house is fantastic. They put a lot of money into their house over the, 46 years they lived there. But there's too many stairs, and it's only a 2-story, but there's stairs everywhere. There's stairs from the front porch, blah, blah, blah. So my mom decides to buy a house. So she gets this realtor, who I like this realtor. She's a good realtor. She's been around the block. But it's interesting because we were making offers on a couple houses only that my mom wanted. And the realtor knows every other realtor. She knows the listing agent. It's a small town, blah, 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 blah. And they have to save face. And so her suggestion of what my mom should offer was nowhere near the suggestion of what I thought we should offer, based on these 2 houses that we were looking at that needed a lot of work. What my mom was going to do to these houses was going to be make it her own, and they needed work. And so the agent is emotionally attached. The agent is motivated by different things, and the agent is not investor educated. I am. My mom isn't. So my mom was afraid to take my advice. But long story short, in both cases, when I heard the agent on multiple times telling me, why would they take that? There's no way they're going to accept that offer, right? How can the agent say that on behalf of someone they don't even represent? They don't even know that person. They don't know that person's motivation. They don't know the reason for that person listing the house. They don't know anything about that seller. So how can they possibly tell me what they will and won't take? And in both cases, I was dead on. The offer I made, I had my mom make, they took it. I can't believe they took that offer. I'm like, why? Because you asked? You don't get what you don't ask for. My point to this is not that, well, number one is you should study the negotiations class. Number two is even good agents don't understand what you know, right? You're the one taking the risk. These types of conversations can go a long way in marketing. I know that we're talking about real estate, but real estate is what we're marketing. Right? So when we're having conversations with people that are interested and are giving you no's or giving you objections or giving you a hard time, for lack of a better term, or you're having a hard time convincing them to go and look at what you're offering, to make a decision, to explore this a second time. Yeah, you're absolutely right, Eric. Then quote some of this stuff. Let them know what they're leaving on the table. People don't know this stuff. And if my mom would have listened to the agent, and I was not there to help my mom in the negotiation of her house, my mom would have paid on the house that she ended up buying, would have paid, I got to remember now, I think around 30,000 more for the house. It would have been fine. It was still less than what it was being asked for. The house was on the market, but there's no need to pay it if you don't have to, right? She could have afforded it. It wasn't going to change her payment that much, right? But 30 grand is 30 grand, even if it's 20 grand or 10 grand. Like, that's a lot of money in any scenario. Whether you got $1 billion or you got $5, 20 grand, 10, it's a lot of money. There's a reason people are billionaires because they know that 10 grand's a lot of money, right? It's not a lot of money in the business that we're in, right? But it's still a lot of money. It's still worth the negotiation. So yeah. Anyway, food for thought. Where are we at? Any other thoughts, comments, questions? Anybody want to add to it? Anybody got another question? Anybody got a real estate thing? Yeah. What is it? Tuesday. It's Tuesday. Big day today. Tuesday's a good day. Tuesday's a mover and shaker day. Making things happen. Should have a closing today. Pretty excited about that. Steve DeMora just bought house number 229. Yeah, you too, Eric. You're so welcome. I'm lucky, I'm fortunate that I'm able to share this experience with you guys, and that I had a lot of experience, and everybody's going to have the same opportunity, has the same opportunity, and it's fun. So I hope that helps. I would say that I'm looking forward to doing more marketing again. I think that if you have the opportunity to join, I think it's huge that you're following Michael. I mean, if you're on Richard Stock's team and Michael's team, it's huge. If you have an opportunity to rub shoulders with Mitch and Melee, they are purpose driven, and they are a force to be reckoned with, and they're looking out for other people. And I like that. They're good people. I got to go with them on the first contest we ever did. When we won that contest, me and Mike, 10 of us went to London. Super exciting, super fun. And they're fun people. So, yeah. And then, I like the idea of having your own, and I'm going to talk a little bit about this in my class. I think I'm going to record the class in mid-May, in about a month and a week, about 5 weeks or so from now. In Utah. I think we're scheduling it around the time that Omer does their class. Omer does his class too, so it'll be 2 days of education in the middle of May. Steve learned English to be an investor with our education. He's finding properties, education levels, the playing field. Yeah, 100%. He was willing to really do something. Yeah, he's very grateful for Renatus and Bob Snyder, and that's why he stays loyal to the marketing and to the community. Yep. Steve had a big impact on is probably the main reason that we have a third class from Chris Albin in creative acquisitions in the AIT. The advanced creative acquisitions class, and is just a huge advocate for helping people in real estate and business. But I would what I was going to talk about is leave you guys with, the girls, is it is important to, and I can't believe I say this anymore, to have a plan, not to be a planner. Okay, there is a difference. A planner, as you know, and some of you are, we all have the ability to wear different hats, right? But people like me, we skip the planning phase. We just jump right into action. There's the technical phase in the beginning where you're studying, and some people get stuck on the knowledge and the inaction, right? They spend time learning, understanding, dissecting, things like that, right? And then you take that information, you've got to plan on how to execute it, then you got to actually execute it, and then you got to set yourself on fire. You got to take risk, and you've got to once you're in action, taking action does not necessarily mean closing, right? Closing means you're on fire, you're taking risk, and you're pulling the trigger, and you're saying yes, right? We don't want to spend a lot of time in saying yes, right? I say yes all of the time for a very quick period of time, and then I quickly move back into the plan, the analyzation phase, and I start the process back over, and then I plan on how to execute, and then I take action, right? But I'm on fire, what we call a wizard. My wizard comes out, and I attack right away. And I'm like, I'm gonna do it. Let's go. Let's run out, pants on fire, and just write a contract, right? After I write the contract, I can back out of it. I go back. I analyze the deal. I don't analyze the deal 58 different times and then plan on how I'm going to pay for it and how and where, how long it's going to take to buy it and who's going to be my partner, and then finally take action. And by the time I'm ready to write the contract and pull my wizard out and light myself on fire, the house is sold or the deal doesn't work. So I've wasted all this time, right? So I pull my point is, though, is that you can't skip the planning part. You can't skip the technical phase where you get educated, and and a lot of times the way to cut, this is critical. The way to cut this curve, this learning curve, the way to eliminate the mistakes, spend more time in action and more time, not more time, but bring out your wizard, set yourself on fire, say yes type of time. And that time frame is a very short period of time. You're only there for a minute, 10 minutes max. And you're making decisions. You're saying yes, you're saying no, you're putting your name on the line, the dotted line, you're signing it, you're borrowing money, you're going to the bank, you're getting a credit card, you're having a conversation with your significant other to tap into your resources, whatever it is. There's a short period of time. The rest of the time is you're going to spend planning, executing majority of it, but technically analyzing and then planning how you're going to use the decision you just made, right? But the way to change this learning curve and to make less mistakes and to spend less time planning and less time in the technical phase and more time in where you're making money, which is the action phase, is you're doing this. You are working with a coach. You are working with a mentor. You have studied someone who's been there, done that, and they're telling you what to do. So that when things come along, you have the ability to spend time in your wizard and then take action that's needed. You don't spend too much time in the planning and technical phase, nor do you miss opportunity. The amount of opportunities I have missed when I look back at my real estate career for the first 5 years is significant. There is more loss than I have gain. There's no one should take as long as I have to become wealthy. Not with the Renatus education and the Renatus system. Nobody. I did everything wrong. I did everything with mistakes. I am still making up for those mistakes because I was a bull in a china shop, stubborn, ignorant, right? And I allowed my resources, financial, to hold me back and did it all on my own. And I did not work on my business. I worked in my business. Is that your target area on the wall? Yes, that is a map of, I bought that map in 2009 when I first started real estate. I had only moved to Arizona in 2006. I am good at driving. I understand directions. I don't need maps. So when I drive somewhere, I know I could drive there again the next day without the GPS, right? I have that ability to have good direction. However, one of the things I learned about real estate investing, it is zip code oriented. It is area location oriented. And so I bought this map because I wanted to know the zip codes. And, you know, I decided to put the map up because I decided that I love all the awards and stuff. And I still have some out, like the one I just got this year for the being an instructor is right there on my desk and stuff. But I put most of my awards in a very nice uniform box. And I decided that I was going to simplify my office, that I wanted it a little bit more sophisticated, simple, less cluttered office. So that's why I put the map up. But yes, I learned early on from Chris Wilson that there are specific zip codes in every county that you should consider. I have several zip codes that I consider the number one zip codes for the most amount of people that are buying and living there in the blue collar areas that are going to be the 80% of buyers. And then I have the zip codes that are the most desirable. I have the zip codes that, sell above asking price. Like there's only two. And I know the magic zip code where you pay less in taxes, but you have the prestige of being in Scottsdale, and you pay City of Phoenix taxes. So it's a big deal. They call it the magic zip code. I know these zip codes. And then I focus on those areas. And when properties come up on my wholesalers all the time, I can just check to see where we're at. And I can look at the streets. I mean, most of it now, doing this for 15 years in Phoenix, Arizona, I know every street. It's amazing. I can pretty much drive down and make 2 right turns, and I'm on a street that I flipped a house on anymore. Just about every street, but or every third street, I guess. But it's pretty funny. And I call my properties by the name of their streets, most of them. So anyway, my new constructions, I call them by the type of house, but my flips, I used to just call them by the street name. So in fact, I'm building a third house on Campbell, and it's Campbell 3 because that's what it is. All right. All right. Yeah. Before we end up, any other thoughts, comments, questions? Checking the chat.
Bill, I'm just
Hey,
curious.
Bill,
Oh, go ahead.
go
Sorry.
ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Okay, I'm just curious. Thanks, Doug. What's your buy box?
I really don't have one, Tamara. I never put myself in a box, and I don't mean that. What do they call it figuratively? I like, in the cliche. I mean it that I don't have a parameter. There's 2 places I won't buy a house: a drug zone and a kill zone. Other than that, the deal dictates, right? If I can't make a profit if I can't screw the house up and make a dollar per dollar investment. So the cost of fix up is 40 grand, I want to screw it up and make 40 grand. If I screw it up badly and I make 30, I'm still okay with it. But I don't want to put in 40 grand of work on a fix up and make 20,000 and then screw it up and make 5. Right? I don't want to fix and flip a house anymore and make $5,000. So my buy box, I don't have one. I don't care what the deal is. Here's the thing that I like about Renatus and the opportunity is that if I can buy a house on terms of some sort and I can get into a property with very little money out of pocket, most likely I'm going to find an exit strategy that will double my money at the very least, right? With no skin off my back, essentially nothing but education invested in the deal, education and time. So like that doesn't fit a buy box, right? Subject to owner financing, lease option / contract for deed. They don't fit in a buy box because the numbers can be much smaller because there's so much more opportunity. There's no risk involved necessarily, right? If I buy a property with no money out of pocket, nothing down, and the person deeds me the property, I can deed it back to them. I can give it back to whoever I need to if something were to go wrong. Once I start putting money into it, naturally, I'm going to become more attached to it, right? And I don't want to lose it. But I don't ever want to ever eliminate a deal because it doesn't fit my parameters. I don't have any parameters. If the deal makes money and it costs me very little money to do the deal, or the deal costs me money where I can borrow money, private money, hard money. I got to put everything together. I got to take time and fix and flip it. But I can put in 40 grand and make 60. It's a deal. It doesn't matter if it's $1 million or if it costs me 50,000, right? It's still going to make me money, right? It's still going to make money that is going to take my time. So that's why I don't really have a buy box. I do have areas. The other thing is like, I'm not like, so Phoenix is the 5th largest city. The traffic is atrocious. We used to have a 6-month time frame where there was barely any traffic. People, the snowbirds would leave, school would be let out, people would go away and not work. And now everybody's working 24/7. Now we're a much more move to city. We're a bigger city. The snowbirds are sticking around for a lot longer. And it's, people are traveling. It's a nightmare. So I don't want to drive anywhere between the hours before 11 o'clock and after 2 o'clock. So I'm not buying fix and flips far, far away. I don't want to drive there. It's too much time on the road and in traffic, and I can't stand it. So that dictates where I'm going to buy a house. Right? But if I'm going to buy a house up in Sedona in Southern California, that's not going to stop me, right? If I have the ability to do it and I'm an educated, sophisticated investor. I don't recommend that necessarily as a newbie, but yeah, I mean, it's crazy. Phoenix is absolutely off the chain. So it's not that pleasant anymore. The magic zip code means that Scottsdale is where every business wants to live. Like Scottsdale's on the market, on the map of the United States. It's well known as like a rich place. As you all know, it's like Orange County. It's like, Hollywood. So it's this name of a city. Scottsdale has like 15 exits off the freeway. It's got like 6 zip codes, I think. But there is a zip code in Scottsdale, 85254, that actually, where they divided Scottsdale and Phoenix, it's in Phoenix city limits, but the zip code's in Scottsdale, the city. So it's interesting, the people that live in 85254, they actually pay city tax, which is less than Scottsdale tax. But they have a Scottsdale zip code. So on their address, it says Scottsdale. So if you have a business there, you technically have a business in Scottsdale, which is much cooler than having a business in Phoenix, right? A lot of people they'll get a PO box or some sort of, fake, location in Scottsdale, but they live in actual Phoenix and they work out of Phoenix, but they have a Scottsdale zip code. So it's recognized by other people in the world as a popular place. 85254, 85254. All of Phoenix is 85. 85254. Yep, that's the magic zip code. I have a house there, several, couple of them. And the taxes are less. It's pretty cool. And it's right on the Phoenix city border. Phoenix Scottsdale city border. Okay. So if I had a buy box, Tamara, you guys, first of all, I would look at where you do and don't want to buy houses. So if they come up on my, like, I'll tell you, if stuff comes up on my radar from Mesa and I can make $1 million on the house, that's not going to come up. I'm not going to buy it. So I typically delete it right out of my email because I'm not driving to Mesa. I don't want to flip in Mesa. Mesa is a great city, but it is a drug infested city. It is growing. There are pockets, but I don't know the pockets. It's too far. I don't spend any time there. I don't eat there. I don't shop there. I don't go there. I don't know it. I know Scottsdale. I know Phoenix. I even know West Phoenix. I know North Phoenix because I lived there for a long time. Right. And I know North Phoenix because 85032 and 85023. Those are two of the most popular zip codes for the 80% of people that can afford a house in Phoenix. That's North Phoenix. So I know exactly where that is and I'm familiar with it. So when those come up, I'm looking there. Right. And I know that I can drive opposite traffic to get to North Phoenix because I'm in a certain zip code downtown area, not quite downtown, but closer to downtown, closer to the airport in a very, and I live in the zip codes that are the two zip codes that sell for above asking price, typically about 3 to 5%. So, but now I can drive North Phoenix and I can go opposite traffic. So if I do have to go up there, I don't mind because I know the travel time. Right. But anyway, so I first go by location and then if I'm depending on what I'm doing with the house, I will tell you, like I said, if I can get a deal that is on terms where there's subject to involved, there's an owner carry involved, there is less out of pocket, I can catch up a mortgage, I can buy the property on an option where there are things that I can control. And then I can pass it on. I can sell pieces of it off or sell it off or whatever. I don't care what the parameters are. I don't care what the house looks like, right? Nothing about a house is going to ever bother me as far as fixing that. Anything on a house can be fixed. Foundation, all that other crap, it doesn't matter. But I can promise you that when I'm actually buying the house and the amount of dollars and time that are going into it, I will not make much. It was funny. Chris Wilson used to say he doesn't flip a house unless he can make 100 grand. I thought he was absolutely nuts. I'm like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. Right. And this is Chris Wilson. I studied him like 20 times. I'd studied his classes. He says that to me several times. Right. I was new. 5 years into fix and flipping. I too rarely, unless it is an absolute slam dunk, single or double, I won't take on the house anymore. I like to have the opportunity to make $50,000 to $100,000 or more per deal because the same amount of effort, that's why I'm doing this ground up class, the same amount of effort, the same number of trades and actually less headaches go into newer construction. 85032 is awesome. And 85023.
Hi, Bill.
Yep.
Oh, are you done answering
No,
Tamara's
you
question?
interrupt me. I'm done. I could talk
Okay.
all day. Yeah.
All right. So my question is, I don't fix and flip because again, my point is like with the contractors, or maybe I just haven't found a really good sets of contractors. And so what do you do? Do you do your GM work or I mean GC work or do you hire somebody that would do it and deal with all the subs? So how do you?
So first of all, in real estate, one factor we will never control that I am aware of and that I have experienced is any type of contractor or subcontractor. The workers in the field and in the industry, there's very little regulation, there's very little recourse, and you're gonna get screwed all day long. I don't know how to get a good contractor. The good ones that are good in the beginning are no longer good. They move on, they're nomad, and they're gonna go where the money goes. They're not very good at long-term relationships that I've experienced. And so that's just a factor. You're gonna lose money. The more money you give them, the less control you have. And so that's just a variable that's part of it. If you're doing real estate and you're fixing anything, whether you own it long-term or short-term, whether you need to fix something that broke, or, stuff gets old, you buy stuff that's old that you don't fix when you buy it, and eventually you're going to have to fix it. It's just part of the game. Real estate is going to need people to fix stuff. And if you are smart and educated, even if you know how to fix it, you're probably not going to be the one fixing it. It's going to take too much time, and it's not worth your time and money. You'd rather hire it out. So,
Right.
bye-bye. See you guys. We're almost done here. So the answer to your question is, I manage all my projects.
Okay.
But
So you do your, you do your
I hire
GC.
general contractors as subcontractors, and then they sub out some other subs that I don't have. I work
Okay.
with very specific dudes that I love and trust, that I can work with, that I know, and like my electrician, my plumber, my landscaper, right? But even some of these guys I've been working with forever. Josh, I've been working with the guy forever. He's so busy. I mean, sometimes he doesn't even show up when he says. It takes me a week to get him to do stuff. So go ahead. What was your thought?
Yeah, so okay, so you're basically like mixing it up. You do hire like a general contractor, but at the same time you're also working with your plumber and your electricians and stuff.
Right. I love
Mm-hmm.
hiring general contractors because they could do more than one thing. So they might have a really good painter, drywall guy, a door guy. So they can come
Mm-hmm.
in, do the doors, do the trim, do the base, and do the paint and do the drywall all in one time. And he can sub all them out, get me the prices, and it takes half the time. But then I'll get my guy to do the electric work and the plumbing work and the roof work, or if I don't need roof work, but I got a tile guy, right? So my tile guy's $260 a foot, so I know I can trust that price. So I'll get my tile guy to do the tile, and he'll work with the GC. But I only hire the GC as a GC if I'm pulling a permit or building a new house. Then you have to have a GC.
Right. So so what do you say with building from ground up, and what would be the profitability with that? I mean, is there anywhere like from like say 10 to 30%, or where you out with that for you to do the deal?
I haven't calculated percentage, but for me to do the deal, I've got to be able to make. If I've got to be able to personally make, if I have a partner on the deal where I'm splitting profit, which then I need to be able to make $250,000. Because if I
Okay.
do two of them, I can make $500,000 for the year.
Okay. I got you.
Right? If I'm doing it myself, I can do one in a year and make 500,000. Then that's what I'm going to look for. If I screw up and
So
it takes 2 years, I can still make 300,000. So I'm
okay.
still making 150,000 a year on that deal.
And with this a quarter of a million, you're thinking about the profit. What would be your ARV with this property? I mean, you're talking like 1 million, or where you at with that as far as
Well,
the
it just
price?
depends. If you buy a lot for 30,000 and you build a house for, for 400,000 and you sell it for 750,000, then you know what I mean? You still make
Mm.
$250,000.
Oh, all right. Okay,
But
gotcha.
generally
It
speaking,
sounds
what I'm
like
doing is I'm buying houses for $500,000. I'm tearing them down. I'm putting $1 million into them. I'm selling them for, you know, for 2 million or more. But like the glass house I bought for 170,000. I put 350 into it and I sold it for $1 million and I made 400,000.
That's awesome.
just
Thank
a
you so much.
regular
Yeah, I'm
day.
just trying to understand, this one, because I have a few property like lots that I wanna get some ground up. That's why I can't wait, to,
So I consulted on
to.
a couple out of Phoenix that are building a house in Sedona. They bought the lot for $100,000 or something. I don't know, 80,000. It's going to take them 800,000 minimum to build this house, and they're going to sell it for 1.2. I would never do that deal. There's not enough profit in it. They're going to be into it for $1 million at least, and they're trying to sell it for $1.2 million to $1.4 million. If they get $1.4 million and they carry it for a year and a half, they might make 150 grand. I can't imagine spending $1 million in money to make $100,000. To make 10%, there's no way. I
Okay,
wouldn't
because
do
that's
it. It's too risky. Like they could
right.
screw that up. Something could go wrong, and they could lose. They could build a whole house, and not make any money. But if they have
Okay.
an exit strategy where they might hold it and rent it out until it goes up again, then that's fine.
It
Right.
sounds
Okay.
like Gilda.
Cool.
It sounds like Gilda's gonna come to the recording studio when it's time to make the class.
Online, but I will be
Online,
watching
no
that.
way. You gotta get your butt there in person.
Got to
You
go
gotta
there
be
in
a part of
person.
the class. How are you gonna ask questions
It's going to be a
online?
hoot. They're going to have they're going to have one of those bleep things, where they bleep out what I say, and then they're going to have like some security, I think, because I'm probably going to break a few rules that I'm probably going to have to practice.
I'm definitely
Gonna
coming for the unedited version.
Yeah, that's too bad. They couldn't schedule it around like nationals. That would have been perfect. You were already there, so.
Yeah, they're just too busy. They can't.
Mm.
They just can't They just got so much on their plate. We talked about it, but it had to happen after nationals.
Mhm.
Cool. Well,
No,
thank you guys.
Michael, I saw the class with Patrick Munson, but Mark Kohler, tax and legal day 1 and day 2 are still there. Now, are they gonna take them down? I mean, I know I asked him if they can keep them, but so
Just download the MP3 files and you'll have it forever.
I have, yeah, I have, but it's different, with the class because you see the pictures and stuff.
Yeah, the workbook and I believe the slide deck on most of the classes are available to download too. So,
Mm-hmm. Okay, so they will be taking those down eventually.
well, yeah, they got to. The
Yeah,
tax legal gets old, once a year. So yeah,
right.
go.
So, okay. Well, thank you so very much. Thank you, Bill. Thank you, Michael. Thank you, everybody.
All right.
Yep, it's another one for the history books.
Yep.
So
Yeah, it was
take
awesome
action.
call.
Yeah,
Yeah.
great
Thanks, Bill.
comments,
Thanks,
questions,
Michael.
thoughts. Yeah. Thank you, everybody. You guys and girls make this call great. Thanks, Mike, for happy birthday, brother.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
Appreciate all the love, the consistency, the support. You guys are awesome. So let's keep it going. Keep inviting, keep spreading the good word. Let's go make a difference out there.
Yeah, this is good stuff. All right.
Good stuff. Thanks.
Have a wonderful
Bye,
day,
Doc.
everyone. Bye.
Bye, you guys.